Hey everyone, before we dive into today's discussion, let me tell you about TractorZoom's Anvil Pro. It's been a real game changer for some dealerships. Anvil Pro is more than just a dealer's management software. It's more than just a CRM. It's a single point solution that is helping other dealers grow their business. Anvil Pro's robust integrations connect the tools and the data you're already using, making your processes seamless and your team more efficient. Now, whether you're managing inventory, you're tracking customer interactions, or optimizing your quoting process, Anvil simplifies the way you work and drives real results. If you are at all curious on how good this could actually be, just go to TractorZoomPro.com, click Request Demo, and you can see for yourself. Let's get to the show.
Beyond the Hood, stories and strategies to fuel dealer growth.
Welcome everyone to another episode of Beyond the Hood with TractorZoom. This is a continuation of our Used Equipment Manager series, and with me today I'm joined by Brad Crist, the large ag used equipment manager at Shoppa's Equipment down in Texas. Shoppa's is an 8-store John Deere dealership down there, and my conversation with Crist, we talk about what's happening here in 24, all the challenges that Texas has seen from weather, commodity prices, and how they've managed their used equipment. And we talk about what we might be able to expect going into 2025. Fantastic and really fun conversation with Brad. So let's jump straight into that conversation. Brad, thanks for joining us.
Andy, man, I appreciate you asking me. I really do. Thanks so much.
Good. Well, I'm really interested to get your perspective. We've done kind of a used equipment manager series, and we made a point to have red representation, AGCO representation, and now John Deere representation. And the way that it worked out is, we've got people from essentially all the different corners of the United States. And I think you guys down deep in Texas have a very unique perspective and certainly unique weather the last couple of years.
Yeah, we have had a very different perspective probably than most of the United States. Where we're at down here, we are southwest of Houston by about 2 hours here at the El Campo location, which is our headquarters. But we've got our farthest southern store is our Victoria location, and that's about, kind of for perspective, that's about 3 hours from the border. So we consider ourselves South Texas, but we're not deep South Texas. The deep South Texas is the Corpus area and then like the Rio Grande Valley down there. So if we talk about the valley, I'll be kind of referring to the Rio Grande Valley down there. That's down right there on the border. So, and it has been unique. It's been unique with droughts. It's been unique with hurricanes. It's been unique with the timeliness of the hurricanes. It's been a very, very challenging year for us, above and beyond the commodity prices that we've had.
Okay. Yeah. So actually first, how about you take a second to introduce yourself and how long you've been with Shoppa's and a little bit about your background. But then I want to pick up right back there because I want to talk about some of the challenges we're facing. But let's first, let's learn a little bit about Brad.
Okay. All right. Well, you might be bored to tears, but no, my name, like you said, my name is Brad Crist. I've been here with Shoppa's Farm Supply going on 19 years, and have been in the sales department the whole 19 years, and we've seen our stores grow from 4 stores to 8 stores all around the upper Gulf Coast of Texas, and then we've got 2 that kind of navigate a little bit more towards Central Texas that are more of our hay and our small tractor stores. So we basically sell everything that John Deere makes except forage harvesters and snow blowers. So we don't get much snow down here, but we really cover the gamut from cotton all the way down to commercial mowing equipment. I mean, we're selling it all, and very fortunate for the diversification, and that kind of diversification really helps us in years where either the ag market is not as strong with commodity prices, interest rates, some of the challenges I'm sure we'll talk about today, or if with the consumer and the small property owner segments too, if they're not so good, the large ag can carry it. So we really are blessed. When I look at the Midwest where it's all large ag, the diversification has been a good deal for us. Brings on different challenges, but it is very that diversification helps us when maybe one segment's not as strong as the other.
Yeah, well, and if I could choose two pieces of equipment to not sell for two totally different reasons, it would certainly be forage harvesters and also snowblowers.
Yeah, absolutely. I tell you, I look at out west, West Texas, New Mexico, and cotton pickers and combines are tough enough, but boy, those forage harvesters be real tough to move.
Yeah, good. And I want to talk about cotton pickers because I get to talk to some dealers about them every so often, but it's not a daily conversation I get to have, and it's a fascinating challenge, and certainly a challenge, I know, especially with the export market where it is. But let's at least start on the broad challenges that you guys are facing. What's 2024 look like for you guys, and what are some of the biggest challenges you're up against?
2024 is, in my 19 years, 2014 was a challenging year for us as well. But 2024 is probably one of the top two most challenging years we've had. Looking back on 24, there were several things that impacted us, and several things that were challenging for us. The biggest thing was probably interest rates and commodity prices, which affected every John Deere dealer, every Case dealer, every AGCO dealer, every farmer across the country. And so that was a challenge. That was a broad challenge. The used equipment market turning as quickly as it did was a challenge. We really kind of saw it coming. I'll be honest with you. In 22, when things were just blowing and going, we elected to continue to try to liquidate as much of our used at that time versus holding it for local customers or what have you, just because we had seen it in 2014 was still fresh enough on our mind that we didn't hold anything. And so we continued to try to move that equipment, whether it be to Iowa, to Illinois, to wherever it may be. We didn't elect to hold it, and that really was a benefit for us. One of the challenges, though, for 2024 was the fact that the delayed availability in 22 went into 23, and there were a lot of equipment that we had retail sold for 20, that we've ordered in 22, 23 that didn't show up until 24. Well, we had trade values agreed to with our customers at that point, and so we had to live by that. So we had sprayers, four-wheel drive tractors, some row crop tractors that were traded for at 22, 23 numbers that, as you know, and everybody that's listening to this knows, were not the same as 24.
Right.
So
And I just had a conversation.
That was a whole nother challenge. I'm sorry, Andy, I cut you off.
Oh, no, I was just going to say that I heard that twice in the last couple of weeks. And again, it kind of comes with the territory of selling new and selling back then, and you certainly don't want to turn down those opportunities. But getting to your used equipment position, I checked out your guys' inventory before we hopped on this call. I went on to Tractor Zoom Pro, and I checked out all of your inventory, and I had to talk to a team member to double check if it was right. Because you guys are sitting in a fairly healthy position. I mean, if I'm right, I saw 5 combines on there. Yeah. I saw just 2 sprayers, 2 self-propelled sprayers. You got a fair amount of larger row crop tractors, but it's also a big, part of your business. Yeah. That's really good for 8 locations.
Well, we went from mid 50 million in used equipment, and we've essentially cut that in half. So we're really proud. And now, don't let me kid you, that was not all profitable deals. But at 8% plus floor plan interest, it was a business decision that we made, and we're real proud of where we're at. Our combine numbers are actually a little bit, more reduced even than what you're seeing. But our sprayer numbers, we've got some sprayers that literally just are hitting the books that will be increasing that number. It's just the ebbs and flows of that business are constant.
Right.
So
still though, you guys have done a nice job there, and I mean it's interesting to see that philosophy because there's other dealers that have had a different philosophy, and they're sitting on a few more right now. And granted, maybe they could have sold more in that 22, 23 period with that excess inventory. So it is an interesting case study to be able to see 2 different strategies play out.
and I'm not saying one is right and one is wrong, but for our market, we don't have the sheer volume of combines and row crop tractors that I'm going to say a traditional Midwest dealer would have. Even when you look at in the Southeast United States, you look over in Georgia and you look at some of the fleet deals that are done over there, and the number of row crop tractors they sell a year versus what we sell is it's significantly more than what we will do. And our area can't absorb all of our used, and so we've got to be very specific and very strategic on how we remarket that stuff and get it out of here.
Huh. Okay, so and on your area of what you can absorb and everything, you're obviously right next to a major port.
Yes.
How big is exporting to your business model?
We have, on the picker side of the business, it's been huge. It's been huge to be able to get a picker to Houston or Galveston for $1,500 versus bringing one in from the Delta at $6,000 or $7,000 is a big competitive advantage right there. So that port business, and you take the fact that we are next to the fourth largest city in the country too. I mean, Houston is in our area of responsibility. So we have that opportunity too, with so much import-export business coming out of Houston and so much diversification with the cultures in Houston, and the Chinese population in Houston, the Brazilian population in Houston, the Ukrainian population in Houston. I mean, there's just a plethora of nationalities there that 9 out of 10 of them are kind of wasting your time, but that one comes through and you develop a relationship, and next thing you know, you've got a good contact and you're able to move some stuff overseas.
Right. And it just takes a handful of those good contacts that you can rely on.
Yes,
and you got
exactly.
Export market.
You asked about challenges and even more so. So prior to, or let me back up. Excluding the change in the used equipment market, excluding the interest rates, we're still going to farm and we're still going to plant, and we had great planting moisture. Now keep in mind, we've got guys that will plant corn in January, which always, which always makes me laugh thinking about, the ground's still frozen solid most other parts of the country, but we're fixing to plant corn into January, and by Valentine's Day things are rolling, and so we're planting early. We had great submoisture, and everything was just rocking along. We got our corn in, we got our milo in, we got our cotton in, and we were looking at probably some of the best yields across the board for all crops that I've seen in my 19 years. And so we were very excited about the opportunity, and now to kind of put it in perspective, our corn yields, we probably would have averaged somewhere between 160 and 180, which is, now keep in mind, that's predominantly dryland corn. And so that's a very good yield for us, and because our input costs, whether it be rent or water or they're just not the same as, say, West Texas or other parts of the country. Right. So those yields were looking really, really good, and we probably could have pushed them 200 for some different growers. Our cotton,
you said were,
sir.
You said those were looking good, right?
Yeah,
there's a butt coming up here, right?
Unfortunately, there's a big butt coming up here. Our cotton, we had some cotton that was going to make 4-bale dryland, which is unheard of. And unfortunately, at 70-cent cotton, you need to make those kind of yields to make it pan out. But we were ecstatic, and there's a reason why farmers have that philosophy of, we don't count it till it's in the bin or until it's been ginned. And this year was we saw it firsthand in the upper Gulf Coast of Texas. So Hurricane Beryl hit us July 8th. We were starting to shell corn, and some guys towards Victoria, they got theirs out because they were early enough. But here in Wharton County, Jackson County, which where we were a direct hit of the storm, we had not really started harvesting corn, and that 185, 200 bushel corn was ready to harvest. and we took a hurricane. Our
Does
cotton,
that just lay it flat? What happens?
yeah, and so it did. It just in a lot of cases it laid it flat. And I know with Iowa derechos, and I know some customers of mine in Missouri that they battle some wind gusts that come through there and will lay corn flat. Well, we were pretty well laid flat, 100%. And so at that point, the hurricane hit. And we were kind of ground zero. Our Bay City store was ground zero, and everybody's just kind of like, "What do we do now?" So we ordered some corn sweepers that we'd never sold down here. Brought those in. That helped tremendously. We still, a lot of guys had to shell their corn and go one way versus back and forth.
Right.
The other thing about that, and I probably need to mention this, we bed up everything down here for the most part. Okay, so there's no cutting across the row, okay, like you maybe could in other parts of the country where you plant flat. We're on 38s, 40-inch beds for the most part. We do have some guys that are ultra narrow row and they plant flat, but for the most part, we are bedded up, and so cutting across or even at an angle is kind of out of the question.
Work.
Yeah, it wouldn't work.
That had to take forever to harvest that corn.
To get that corn or cotton or milo, any of it. And so we got to kind of go up and down the row. And it was a long harvest. Corn heads were down in the dirt. It was a great parts year because of it.
I can imagine all the rocks that went through those combines.
Well, fortunately, it's not rock. We don't have any rocks, but just the dirt and running snoots into the ground and folding the snoot back and that kind of challenges because they had to go so low. So, even with that said, with all that struggle and all that increased input of diesel and everything else and hours on equipment, we still averaged in Wharton County about 149 to 155 bushel. So we were, which is not what we wanted. But to get that corn was really unbelievable.
Right.
So the cotton, it just twisted it up. It wasn't ready to pick at that point, but it just twisted the cotton up. And there was talk about, well, will we even harvest? So we go from 4 bale cotton, which is 2,000 pound cotton, to wondering if we're going to just shred it all down. And knock on wood, we didn't. The cotton kind of turned around. The cotton kind of came out of it. And we still picked. Now the grades weren't quite where they needed to be, but we still picked a lot of 2.5 bale cotton, which is remarkable for what these crops went through.
Huh. Good. Good testament to your guys' farmers too. That couldn't have been easy.
No, I tell you, and I think that goes for farmers across the country. There's just a sense of perseverance, a sense of we got to get it done, and I commend our growers for what they went through. Just you hear so much about mental health these days. I don't know.
Right.
I tell you what, Coors Light really got a big bump in their sales probably, but no, it was it's a testament to our farmers, a testament to the equipment dealers around here that supported those dealers or those farmers, excuse me, and hey, we got it done. Now we had some guys that not only had the hurricane hit, but were hailed out prior to the hurricane, and they waited on a late crop. So normally we are done picking at the very latest the first part of October, and we're going to have guys that will probably push December picking this year, but their late cotton is unbelievable.
Oh, good for that. Now, does that push anything else back, or will it not have any effect that'll carry over into 25?
Yeah, no, that's a great question as far as, what does that push back? Guys are working ground as much as they can right now to get ready. That will slow those guys down a little bit, but if they can get their cotton out, get their stalks shredded and then pulled, they'll just kind of fall back in and probably just rebed instead of laying it back flat and rebedding. They'll probably just rebed on top of what they've already got and be caught up. We're so doggone dry, Andy, right now that guys are having to stop field work as it is just because there's just no moisture.
Yeah, and we are sitting the same way. I mean, I think it was probably March up here in the Midwest, we were bone dry, level 3, level 4 drought in some areas. And then we got just a deluge in the spring. And we thought we were all fully replenished, and then it turns off. And we are back to dust. We're not going to do a lot of tillage work this fall just because too afraid of the erosion that's going to happen.
Yeah. And you kind of, as we were visiting before, you think about farming practices from the 1930s, and I thought that was a great point you made. You can see how there'd be a dust bowl, just as dry as it is. And, I don't know. I know the central part of the United States was in a severe drought. I've got some good customers in California that do some permanent crops, but also do a lot of cotton too. It's just bone dry there too, and they're praying for the snowpack in the mountains, so they've got water for next year. Yeah,
yep. We'll take anything that we can possibly get, but it's pretty widespread.
We're needing that down in the valley. We talked about it a little bit. Sell it to a lot of guys down there on the U side, and a lot of vegetables down there that take a lot of water. And the Falcon and Amistad reservoirs down there that we share with Mexico, they're depleted. And I tell you, the only thing really right now, and we're just about past that season, but we really almost needed a hurricane to go up that river and just unload to fill those reservoirs, because it's terrible dry from Mexico all the way up.
Yeah, that's something now that we'll be watching. Do you know how many dealers have ever told me, I wish I didn't have this good of data? Zero. None have ever told me, because today, clean data is like a well-organized shop. You can do so much more. You waste less time. You find the tools that you need. You just get the job done faster because you've got the right tool for the right job. This is one way that TractorZoom is helping dealerships like yours grow. We are not just providing intelligent workflows. Our system is ensuring your data is rock solid. With trusted, accurate data driving every decisions, now you can streamline inventory. Now you can improve customer follow-ups and nail quoting processes without second-guessing those numbers. It's all about working smarter, not harder. If you want to see what Anvil Pro can do for your dealership, just visit TractorZoomPro.com, request a demo today, and find out for yourself. Let's get on with the show. So flip this around a little bit, though. Positive trends, whether it's stuff that you're seeing here at the end of 24 or even looking forward into 25. Is there anything in your guys' area that's looking up?
Yeah, absolutely. There's several things that are very positive. The fact that we harvested what we did harvest is a real plus. I think there's a sense right now that if we could make it through all the challenges that we had in 24, we can make it through anything. And there's a sense of optimism there, not only for growers but for dealers as well. So there's a lot of optimism there. I think that we're seeing the used equipment market. I personally feel like we've hit the bottom, and we're starting to see a rebound. I'm seeing combine prices increase a little bit, which is needed for everybody. It's a little bit like oil prices. When gas is cheap, everybody smiles, but really as an economy, we need oil prices to be strong, and we need used equipment prices to be strong as well.
Right. And I've seen that again. I think I had a webinar a couple weeks ago and was showing that with combines. I do agree with you that I think we're near the bottom on those, and in row crops, four-wheel drives, at least up here in the Midwest, we might have a little further to go, but I think we're close to realizing the new bottom, and then we'll just kind of work from there.
Yep. I think so too. So that's positive. There's also, and I'm probably going to call it the wrong thing, but some sort of stimulus that apparently is in the House and the Senate right now.
Yes, this Farm Act.
Yes, and the numbers I'm seeing are can be really beneficial. I don't want to say the numbers because I don't know that I'm exactly right, but what I'm hearing from growers and from some people around here, but the dollars for cotton acres planted, the dollars for corn acres, for us rice. We have rice down here as well. Milo. We really don't do a lot of beans, but that can really help a lot of our guys be a big shot in the arm and affect the entire ag industry, whether that be obviously the farmers and growers, but ranchers, dealers, fertilizer dealers, custom applicators. I think it's going to help. It's going to help everybody across the board.
Good. I'm glad you mentioned that, and I think I don't have the numbers all on top of my head, but I do remember seeing $200 an acre for cotton
207 for cotton is what I've seen.
Yes. Yep. And again, it's still got to go through
corn.
It's got to go through the Senate, the House, but voting for a stimulus package like that is a popular thing.
Yes.
And I don't see a lot of people shooting that one down, especially considering the election year that we're in.
There will be, will it be scaled? Will it tap out on acres, tap out on entities, and regardless, that money is there to help. And it's sure better than not getting anything, is what I've been telling my guys. And so that's very positive. And there's a hurricane stimulus that will affect a lot of Texas, Louisiana, Georgia, probably even into Arkansas. That when that storm went up the river, and maybe even clear up to the Boot Heel, Missouri. I've obviously North Carolina and some of those states that have been hit so hard, Florida. But there's a hurricane stimulus that apparently will go hand in hand with that. And I think if those two can be linked together, what I'm being told is we'll probably see that in calendar year 24.
That was going to be my next big question for you, because I think the Farm Act alone will make a big difference if it happens in 24. I think if it delays the actual payment for those farmers, and most do go cash basis, if it goes into 25, I was curious, do you think it'll have as big of an effect on the equipment world, or do you think it'll just kind of be, diluted?
No, I don't. I think it'll affect it, whether it's 24 or 25. There comes a point where, you look and say, okay, I've got these, this is really going to show a difference in farming in the South versus the Midwest. But I'm running 8430s or 8335Rs, that have quite a bit of hours on it, and yes, I put an engine in, or I put a transmission in, or I do. Well, that tractor, and our guys realize that tractor's still worth what it's worth, whether it's got that new engine in it or not. I mean, when I trade for a tractor, I expect the engine to be good. Or right. I expect the transmission to be good. So when you tell me, I've got a new engine in it, do you really want to keep that tractor that much longer to pay for that engine? And so I think whether it's in 24 or 25, guys are going to say, I've got to control my repair bills with warranty. And, that's one of our strategies is we put full comp, 5-year, 5,000-hour warranty on 99% of all our equipment. And if I bring a tractor in from Greenway or something like that, and it doesn't have warranty on it, I'm going to add it. We feel like that is a huge advantage for us, and takes that uncertainty out for our customers up to 5,000 hours. And so that has been, we feel like it pays for itself.
Yeah, that's a good differentiating strategy. And I just had another talk with a dealer last week that, the numbers weren't exactly the same and not in your guys' region. But again, he was kind of sticking his flag in the ground on adding on that warranty, that extended warranty on what goes through their doors.
I think it's huge on pickers, for sure. And you can't get 5,000 hours on pickers. You can get 1,500 engine hours, full comp warranty. And what's so great is there's so much technology in those pickers with the sensors and different things. It doesn't take long to spend a lot of money on a picker for something, right. Something small like that. So that $500 or $750 deductible is cheap insurance.
Oh yeah, I've never fixed a picker, but I spent a good majority of this fall in the back end of a combine, so I can appreciate that. Okay, I want to talk about a few more granular things now.
Okay.
So what about interest rates and financing? Do you guys see, especially because you have a big, diverse customer base down there, do you see it having a big effect on whether it's lowering interest rates that the Fed is doing or financing that you can provide, whether it's to the residential side or turf or large ag?
Yeah, so I'm going to look at it. We have a large ag sales manager. We have a small ag sales manager, and so we kind of divide our markets as such. So I'm going to answer, as far as what we've seen with the finance and the Feds, kind of two sides. So on the small ag side, we definitely saw those changes help. and drive some more business. Whether it was still supplemented by deer some, but we definitely saw those interest rates and that lowering by the Fed continue to help that business. It just made, a program rate, instead of being 4.9 on a baler, when the Feds came down, it went to 3.9 on a baler. And so that definitely drove that. On the large ag side, especially the used side, we never sold at regional rates. We were always using a pool fund or some kind of incentive to drive that. So on the used side, I don't know that our customers saw that as much when you start talking about the used large ag, because it was so much incentivized anyway to try to move that stuff.
Yeah, that's good perspective. Okay, changing topics. And on your inventory, I saw you guys have a bunch of planters, and knowing all the different types of seeds you guys are putting in the ground, your diversity of planters has already got to be some of the broadest that's out there. Throw on upgrade kits on top of that. How do you, or do you even attempt to put values on used planters?
Knock on wood, at this point, we haven't had the upgrade kits, whether it be through Deere or through Precision Planting, that have come in on trade to us. It's amazing, because I know other parts of the country, it's huge.
Right.
And for us, we haven't seen a lot of it. We've had many conversations about it on how we trade for that, but we haven't had to broach that subject just yet. Deere's ExactEmerge that has come out, we've sold a lot of those new planters versus upgrading somebody, because we've got those guys that are looking for their 12-row 38 planter with 3 bushel boxes and maybe hydraulic drive versus transmission drive. So, and Andy, I would also say this too. For like on an E-drive planter, not an ExactEmerge, but on an E-drive planter, we were seeing somewhere between 98 and 99.6 singulation on those planters. Okay, for the kind of corn we raise, and for the wide row that we're on, that upgrading that planter is not going to swing the needle that much, and so. We don't see a lot of our guys are content with where they're at right now on that singulation. You go with a hydraulic drive, it drops a little bit more. You go with a transmission, it's going to drop it a little bit more. But with our yields, it just doesn't swing the needle enough where we see a whole lot of that the upgrades being available. We have had some guys that have put independent hydraulic downforce that have helped. Some row cleaners, hydraulic row cleaners, or pneumatic row cleaners, but all in all, we haven't had a whole lot of upgrades. I think it's probably coming, but it's just not here yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting to hear, and I'm at least reassured by the fact that those farmers are looking ROI. I mean, they see that it is an investment, and they're also looking at the output. And you're right that precision, if it's done right, that it should increase your yields by 1%. But also, and even for our farm here, we're flat. 1 square miles, everything is very homogeneous, and so the potential benefit is less, just because there's not the variation that we have to deal with. And again, it's kind of good to hear that your farmers are at least thinking of the ROI piece of it and analyzing it.
Yeah, absolutely. A hot topic for us down here is controlling input costs, and probably like everybody. So when they're looking at what they can do to increase profits on their farm, it's more like limiting trips. It's more like how am I putting my fertilizer out? Am I using? We have very little anhydrous, but we do have some. Some guys that swear by it. We have a lot of guys that will throw out dry. We've got a lot of guys that will put stuff out with Montag. So down the road. So we're looking at a lot of different ways. Got some guys that have done some liquid. We look at a lot of different ways on how to control those costs by minimizing passes or changing our farming practices. I shouldn't say changing, tweaking our farming practices. Some of those guys that have gone flat, They're running DB planters, and they're planting their corn on 20s and planting their cotton on 40s with the same planter. And so now, granted, they're not bedded up like a lot of our guys, but they've gone flat, and they've controlled costs that way. They've gone to a high-speed disc and minimizing passes. So controlling our inputs right now is probably the biggest thing that we have found that can swing the needle.
Yeah, good. It's interesting to hear you speak of it as a true partner to the farmer, because I mean the pronouns you're using of like we trying to control our costs, and that's good to hear you from a dealer standpoint of sitting on the same side of the desk as the farmer and helping them make those decisions.
You know, it really is. I mean, being in sales, you know, people always tease you, oh, you're a car salesman or this or that, and quite honestly, the relationships that we have, and I'm going to say we as a John Deere dealer, or not even John Deere, as a dealer network, as farm equipment dealers, and whether that's Red, Ag, or Agco or Deere, there is a relationship there. You know, a lot of times we live in small towns. We go to church with these folks. Their kids are on the football team, or they cheer with our daughters, or whatever it may be. There is a relationship there. And their success, our success, hinges on their success. And, you know, quite honestly, their success hinges on ours. We've got to be able to be successful as a dealer to be able to provide the parts and the service that they need and require to stay farming. So it is such a relationship deal. And you know, without sounding hokey, I don't think there's anything I'd rather do just to have that relationship with our growers. Now, hey, that doesn't mean, just like my wife tells me how it's going to be a lot of times, these farmers do too, but you know, you're able to work through those things.
Right. I can relate to that. And of all the industries I worked in, this is by far the most enjoyable. I think those relationships just pervade throughout all aspects.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, so I want to shift gears here a little bit and just talk a little more philosophical. Let's bring it to there. You know, is there something this past year, because you said 2024 was probably the second most challenging year you've been through.
Yeah.
Is there something, though, that you can take away from this year, that you've learned this year?
Yeah, I think what I've learned is, even though the change did not start in 22, we knew it was on the horizon. But once that switch got flipped, I don't know if I learned it or was reminded how quick this market can change. You know, the biggest difference between 14 and where we are now in 24 was the interest rates weren't as high in 14 as what they are for like floor plan interest and different things like that. So I think the thing that I learned or was reminded in 24 is how quick this market can turn. You know, you take a perfect storm, you take commodity prices, you take a glutton of used equipment on dealers' lots, and you take interest rates, and it was just the trifecta, and it was just like, doggone, how do you know, you get nervous, Andy. I mean, you can attest to this. You get nervous on putting a value on something because you don't know how it could be right today, and you could miss it by $30,000 tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. Good.
So
yeah, the different markets were changing at different times and fast.
And now here's a shameless plug. We did get on Tractor Zoom Pro, and it was by far one of the best things that we've ever done. To analyze that auction data like we're capable of through you guys has been fantastic. But we go to 3 months in the past, not 6 months or a year. If you go back and look at a year and take a 9470R and you go back and look at it a year, you may be $80,000 to $100,000 off of a very similar tractor within 3 months.
Yep.
So that's.
I stopped using the 6 month filter, and I would only go back. I would look at 30 days and to see if I had enough sales. If there weren't enough sales of a particular model, I'd go back 60 days, essentially 2 months.
Yeah.
But that's the time period when you could start to see that noticeable change, and it's happening fast. I mean, I'd have auctions, and frankly, there's a couple dealer auctions that are happening this week up here. There's a couple coming up in mid-November that I'm going to be watching as soon as they get posted the next day, just to see if we truly have hit bottom or if we've got a little further to go.
Yeah. No, I you mentioned that, pardon me, you felt like row crop crackers still could come down a little bit. For us down here, we've kind of hit the bottom, and now we might have been we probably were selling a little bit cheaper than the Midwest prior, but we are starting to see it rebound, and I think that's exciting.
Good, that is reassuring. Okay, last question for you then. One of the most helpful pieces of advice that you've ever received?
Oh man. Probably one of the most helpful pieces of advice I've ever received. Don't take a laxative and a sleeping pill at the same time.
That's fantastic.
No, I messed around. That's
good. Now, I'm not going to be able to, because we're meeting next week at Nashville, I'm not going to be able to look at you straight in the face.
You lost what little respect you had for me is all gone now. I think that probably the biggest piece of advice would probably be stay in this, and our owner Chris Shapa is the one that told me this, is stay focused at the task at hand, but don't be so have your blinders on so much that you can't look ahead of what's coming. And for all of us that are in the used equipment market, it's been a tough year. Everything you thought you knew, you found you didn't, and everybody at the dealership's looking at you like, man, what are we going to do to get this stuff going? And that's what Chris was telling me is, hey, we've got to get through this, but it will get better. We will get back. We all say it's cyclical and we all know it, but when you're living it at that time, it's hard to remember that. But that was just something to remember. There's better days.
Yeah, that's a fantastic piece of advice, and one that I don't know if you've ever met Dwayne Kautzman. Used to work for Hudson. He's helping us out a little bit now with strategy, but he was talking to me about that exact same concept, and that's what spurred the whole idea of this podcast. Was he's like, you can get so entrenched in what you're doing, your head's under the hood all the time, and you're just working in the day to day. And it was his exact quote. He's like, you got to look beyond the hood every once in a while. Kind of have that eagle eye where one's focused down below, but one's looking at the horizon. And he's like, otherwise, you look up and you realize, oh crap, like you don't see what's coming at you, and then it's too late.
Yeah, for sure. And another thing, this is not so much advice, but I think having that dealer network, like we're going to see in Nashville here next week, I think, if nothing else, a sounding board with your compadres and and being able to move equipment back and forth and bounce ideas off each other. I think in 24 that was a bigger deal than it's ever been, and these I think we all realized we got to have each other to absorb this used equipment. I think that was a big thing too.
Yeah, but I think that's always been important. It'll be really important going forward with lower inventory levels to help your farmers find the equipment they need, even if it's not on your lot. I think it's going to be a big deal here in 2025.
Yeah.
Good. Well, Brad, I really appreciate you jumping on, especially the timing that it is. It's close to Deere's year end. We've got this trip up to Nashville next week, so I really appreciate you giving the time and hopping on the podcast.
Well, I talked your leg off, and I'm sorry about that, but man, it was a good visit, Andy, and I look forward to seeing you here next week.
Absolutely, first round's on me.
That's always the cheapest round too. So
it is. Yep.
Andy, I appreciate you.
Yep. Likewise, Brad. Thanks and take care, and for all of our viewers and listeners out there, thank you for joining us for this episode of Beyond the Hood with Tractor Zoom. Stay tuned, and if you haven't yet, make sure you like, follow, subscribe so you don't miss future episodes.
Andy, I had one more thing for you. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Iowa State's undefeated. You got to be feeling really good right now, don't you?
I'm a Hawkeye, but I will say, unless you knew that, you'd be jabbing at me. But no, Iowa State is undefeated, and as long as the Cyclones aren't playing the Hawkeyes, I will certainly cheer for them. I've got a lot of friends there, so we are, vicariously, loving that as well. So I'll take what I can get up here.
That's it.
Okay. On that note, though, take care, everybody, and we'll see you on the next episode.